Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined in studio, no less, by Mr. Sean Keenan.
This Daredevil ain't Heidi's Daredevil.
No, it's not at all. And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and the rapist's name is Casada. I want to repeat, Casada is a rapist.
We'll get to that. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a very interesting show for you today. Now, we've covered, Daredevil Season 1. We've covered Daredevil Season 2. We've covered whatever the hell the name of that Daredevil movie was that we covered. That was the
Incredible Hulk.
Incredible Hulk.
Daredevil. Blind Justice.
That's how much I wanted to forget that movie because, my gosh, woo, you talk about a stinker. But we're going to talk about something that may or may not be a stinker. Today we're going to be talking about Daredevil from 2003, starring the Ben Afflecks there and the Jennifer Garners. And we're actually going to be talking about the director's cut in this episode because the director's cut is slightly different from the theatrical cut. And we'll talk about some of those differences and all that kind of jazz. So strap on. We got some fun stuff heading your way. I do want to stop real quick and just thank everybody for jumping onto our Patreon there and giving us a couple of shekels and everything. We really, really appreciate that. We've kind of gone up a little bit in the last couple of weeks here, and you guys have got some exclusive stuff. So Bruce and I, for the holiday season here, as far as Halloween goes, for that being a holiday.
You guys did a secret show without me?
We did a secret show without Sean. We said, we don't want that guy in here giving his opinions and stuff. Gross.
Hey, kids, Sean puts razor blades in the apples. Don't eat them.
Don't go to his house. It's no good.
I would never give out apples for Halloween.
I give out prickly pears.
But yeah, man, so we really appreciate everybody going to patreon.com/HMP. If you've done that, there is an exclusive episode there where Bruce and I talk about horror movies or horror comic books that have been made into movies and vice versa and stuff like that. So it's a good time. It's a full show, kids. It is an hour-long show of me and Bruce talking about this kind of stuff. So that just shows you, man, even for $1 over on Patreon, you can, kind of get in there and get yourself a little something extra. And we're cooking up more things for you guys and all that kind of good stuff. We're working on ways to do live shows over the internet and stuff, so you can tune in when we record and all. I got plans, baby. We got plans, and the way that we do that is go to patreon.com/HMP.
He's trying to build an empire.
We're working on it.
And at $1 for that Halloween episode, that works out to like 1.6 cents a minute. You can't beat that.
You can't beat it.
How did you do that math so quick? What are you, some sort of wizard?
Oh, man, I am a chubby wizard.
What are you?
I don't know if you set that up just to like give him the underhanded pitch, but I sit there and I just like, that was like one where it was like 3/4 of the way to the plate, and I was like, oh no.
That's a giant meatball for Bruce.
That was a hanging curveball.
I was like, man, if he doesn't step on this one, I don't know what's gonna happen. But sure enough, he did it because why? He's the best. That's what we all know.
You're the best, kid, the best.
So we don't have any new iTunes reviews, but if you'd like to drop us one, we'd appreciate that. Go on down to the iTunes there. I forget what the thing is. It's just type in HMP and leave us a 5-star review. 5-star review, humdinger. That's what I'm wanting to say. My breath is, I'm all over the place. I'm trying to do 5 things.
Humdinger?
Good enough. All right, because Bruce is under a time clock here. That's why, like, all of a sudden it's just like
look, you don't need to go any faster. If Bruce needs to go early, Bruce goes early. We'll close out without him. It's okay.
I'll just put my dog in front of the mic. You won't even be able to tell the difference.
That sounds like Bruce to me.
I'm Bruce Leslie.
Ridiculous. All right, so let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it. Here is the trailer for the 2003 movie Daredevil.
Are you here to confirm that Daredevil is responsible for this, Detective?
There is no proof that Daredevil even exists.
He can hear it before it makes a sound. He can sense it before it happens. He can vanish before you realize he's there. And he's the last person you'd ever expect.
Police suspect the vigilante Daredevil was the one to bring the criminals to justice.
I don't know why you read that trash.
You want the truth?
Tell me.
She's hideous.
Excuse me. I just wanted to get your name. Does every guy have to go through all this to find out your name?
You should try asking for my number.
I've been following that piece you wrote about the Kingpin.
How do you kill a man without fear?
Let the bodies hit them.
Give me bullseye.
The devil's mine. I hope justice is found here before justice finds you.
How can you be a skeptic?
There's no eyewitness. I mean, Bigfoot has eyewitnesses.
Please.
All right, everybody, that was the trailer for Daredevil, our retro review of this week. IMDb plotline: a man blinded by toxic waste, which also enhances his remaining senses, fights crime against an acrobatic. That's a word. Yeah, how often do I say the word acrobatic? Let's be honest. Acrobatic martial arts superhero. I don't know. When I think of Daredevil, I don't go like, boy, the acrobatics on that guy.
You're right, Adam. It's the word's fault.
Yeah. It's not untrue. Okay. This is written and directed by Mark Steven Johnson, starring Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, Colin Farrell, Micheal Clark Duncan, Jon Favreau, and Joe Pantoliano. That trailer was funny, but there was a teaser trailer that was out, and the reason I remember the teaser trailer so vividly is because my family went down, I went to film school in Orlando, so the family took a trip down there to take a look at the school and everything. And so we went to see Minority Report that night at one of the theaters, and it was a big, it's bigger than most of the theaters that I had been to at that point, where there's 600-700, seater or something like that. It's pretty huge.
Wow, that is big.
And the Daredevil trailer played and everything, and there was a guy, it was pretty quiet throughout the entire thing. It ended up in, dude just oh, I got to see that. And I was just because it was a great teaser trailer, and it was, hey, I got to see that, but he was the only guy who just pretty much made the entire audience go, heck yeah, we do. And but that was, that's always kind of, in my brain there and stuff, and that's where I ended up seeing this movie, these many years ago. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the director's cut of Daredevil here. So this one's got a couple more minutes, but it's also got some things taken out. And we'll talk about a couple of those differences and everything. But my guess is my man Bruce Leslie has a little bit of something here for our comic book connection.
My man.
Yes, Bullseye. We're going to talk about Bullseye because I've talked about Daredevil way too often.
Man, you can't possibly have more to talk about with Daredevil. You just can't.
He wears a size 8 shoe.
Yeah, and his mobility cane is extra special. But anyway, Bullseye was created by Marv Wolfman and John Romita Sr. in 1976. So just think about that. Our bicentennial year, America was gifted with Bullseye. And although he possesses no superpowers, Bullseye is able to use almost any object as a lethal projectile. Bullseye's real name and origins are unknown, but sometimes he has gone by Poindexter, leading me to assume that he was feeling hot at the time.
Oh, my God.
Bullseye was raised in the Bronx by his abusive father, and he enjoyed playing with rifles because there was a time when a child holding an actual rifle was considered playing. Now, when he was 10 years old, his brother started a fire in their home in an attempt to kill their father, and shortly after, Bullseye was placed in a foster home. It turns out that a guy with talents like Bullseye was a pretty good pitcher in high school, so he went to the minor leagues and then quickly made it to the majors. In his first big league game, he had a perfect game going into the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs. He became bored and told the coach to pull him from the game. The coach refused and insisted that he finish the game. So what he did after the opposing team's batter mocked him, he just threw the ball directly at the batter's head, killing him as the ball struck him. And he only said one word, Bullseye. Now, he was barred from professional baseball and convicted of manslaughter. Too bad he wasn't on steroids, because then the commissioner would have looked the other way. Now, his natural talents made it inevitable that he be recruited as an assassin. Shockingly, or perhaps not, it was the U.S. government that hired him and sent him to Nicaragua to train the Contras. Thanks for nothing, Ollie North. Now, the truth is, Bullseye was planning to go rogue and rob the Contras. But guess what, guys? South American rebels, they're really, really poor. So within hours of being informed of their poverty, he led the Contras in seizing a landing strip that the Colombian cocaine smugglers were using, because if Superman 3 taught me anything, it's that the only 2 things of value in Latin America are coffee and the other thing. Now, Bullseye was all set up to make himself the next Pablo Escobar, when Punisher showed up and ruined everything, just like the Scooby Gang. Now, in the fight with Punisher, Bullseye used some blood-reddened mud to paint a bullseye on his forehead, and he started to mock Frank Castle's inability to hit him. Strangely, Bullseye turned himself into the DEA agents not too long after this, and then he was assigned to infiltrate Kingpin's criminal empire. He got a costume from Kingpin, and then he fled, and he became one of the most dangerous hitmen in the world. And to be honest, I think there would have to be simpler ways to get a costume. Just go to Party City next time, Bullseye. Now, later on, Bullseye is captured by the FBI and sent to a super-person prison. He claims that he was really the one who started the fire that burned down his childhood home, and that his whole capture by the FBI was a plan by Bullseye to gain access to the prison where his father was being held. Bullseye finally gets revenge on his father when he sets the prison on fire and leaves his father to burn to death in the prison cell. The first time Bullseye ever battled Daredevil was at a circus, proving that circuses in comic books are way better than the Ringling Brothers. Now, Bullseye's later hired to kill Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson, and Daredevil interferes. Repeated defeats by Daredevil, one of which was on broadcast television, caused Bullseye to suffer a mental breakdown. Oh, he also had a brain tumor. That probably contributed to the breakdown as well. Anyway, luckily for Poindexter, his brain tumor got better, and he proceeded to fail at assassinating Kingpin. While he was in prison, he learns that Kingpin has employed a new chief assassin, a lady named Elektra, who also happened to be Daredevil's former lover. After he escapes from prison, Bullseye attacks Elektra and impales her on her own side. This causes Daredevil to lose his cool and break Bullseye's back, leaving him paralyzed. Now, because it's comic books, the paralysis gets better, and Bullseye and Daredevil get to go on hating each other for years. No matter how the character changes, like that time he became Hawkeye for a while, one thing is constant. Whenever you see Bullseye and Elektra together, he's going to kill her with a stab that somehow is able to pierce her entire torso, but for some reason can never manage to make it through the back part of her shirt.
Hey man, when your shirts are made out of lead, you know what are you gonna do? You can only stretch those so far before you know.
Oh, if only he'd tried to stab her from the back, she would have been safe.
Isn't there a run also where Bullseye starts pretending to be Daredevil and Daredevil starts pretending to be Bullseye? Am I right?
Man, there probably is. I don't think I've read that one, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It's called Freaky Friday.
Oh yeah, it starred Jodie Foster and some old lady.
Trading places. I mean, you know, it's a standard hack. Somebody's done it. Somebody's had to have done it at some point.
Yeah.
I don't put it past. So this movie stars Ben Affleck, the guy who's actually been a superhero in more different superheroes in movies than anyone else, as far as I can tell.
Oh man, that's bold.
There's
a lot of folks out there.
Chris Evans
they're probably pretty close because
Brandon Ruth, he's been a couple.
That's one of those is on television.
If you include Todd the Vegan, you know.
Well, that's true. Okay, yeah. So you got about 3 guys here, but Ben Affleck is definitely in that group because he's got Batman now. He was Daredevil. He was also Superman in Hollywoodland. Some people won't count that, but I count that.
No, that's good.
I count that. So the guy's been in some stuff. So. And he was not the top choice for this one for a lot of people. A lot of people said like Ben Affleck. Why is he? Now I'm gonna start here. I'm a Ben Affleck fan. I've been a Ben Affleck fan for a long time. I think the guy gets a hard rap on a lot of stuff. Some of it's deserved. I'm not gonna say that he's blameless or anything. But
one thing I'll definitely give him credit for in this movie is his hair definitely looks like it was brushed by a blind man in this movie.
Whenever I think of Ben Affleck, early on I got a review when I was doing a live show, and the person who was reviewing the show said about me, he's sort of a cross between Jason Lee, only not as goofy, and Ben Affleck, only not as handsome. And I think about, for some reason, I think about that all the time. Whenever I see Ben Affleck, now I'm like, that's what could have been if I would have worked out a little bit more.
Got to work on the handsome more.
Work on that handsome.
Look in the mirror, just go, come on, get here,
get handsomer.
There's something amazing about these leading men in Hollywood, too, that they're so much more muscular and bulky in their 40s than they were in their mid-20s, and that comes through here too, because he looks like half the man he was in BVS.
That's true.
Yeah, he's bulked up big time. Like even before BVS, like I'm like he was pretty ripped in The Town and everything. There's a whole scene now. You directed the movie, so it's like, hey, I worked out really hard. You're gonna see a scene of me doing pull-ups. Watch this mess.
Yeah,
well, I guess he had to stay skinny back then to keep his job at Fashionable Male.
No, he was fatter at Fashionable Male. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
You look back at that, it's just like, Ben Affleck's all chubby and has chiclet teeth.
Yeah, he got his teeth
Amazing
fixed.
he could even fit in the backseat of a Volkswagen there.
Michael Bay was just like, we got to do something about them teeth, son. That's a true story.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like he was just like, look, don't ask me why I know all this crap. I like Michael Bay, but they spent like $30,000 getting his teeth done for movies
that's a
proper
lot of money.
because he was just like, no. This kid's gonna be he's the lead actor of this thing. He better look like it. He ain't looking like it with them teeth. It ain't gonna happen.
Like $6,000 a tooth, man.
Yeah, so you're in the wrong business, buddy. You got to go for the teeth.
Oh, and he was a little bit fleshy and dazed and confused too when he's playing a bully.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like I said, back in 2003, we weren't, we're post Spider-Man, we're post, all that kind of stuff, but it hasn't gotten into the. I wouldn't call this a second wave by any stretch of the imagination at this point for kind of more modern stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's definitely not made it to the Dark Knight, Iron Man era in movies.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's like we need to come up with a post marker here. Like this is the post of like this is where the second wave begins. What movie? Like let's think it out right now. What movie is it? You think it's Batman Begins? Probably is the second.
I almost call that the third. Really?
Really?
Yeah, the third wave is what I would say. At least the third wave, because our first wave is going to be Tim Burton and Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yep, let's call it that.
But I mean, but see, but we get into the fact of like, what do we even call the serial age? But like, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
if
that's prehistory, man. That's prehistory. That's before current movies.
Those
VCM.
don't even count. Okay, all right. If you're not in color, you don't count. You don't. So Sin City movies, you're out already. You don't even get involved at all because you're in the black and white. So like, we got a little bit of color in there. Like, okay, fair enough, you're in.
Oh, but man, this movie, man, I remembered it. I didn't. This is the first time I've seen the director's cut, but I remembered it maybe not being as faithful as I think it was. I think it really carried across the spirit of what Daredevil's been known as ever since The Man Without Fear and Frank Miller's first run on Daredevil, because it checks off all the boxes. For the first Daredevil movie, you kind of got to check off these boxes, but it opens with Daredevil injured and inside of a Catholic church. So right away, you get to check off two boxes.
Yeah. And that's what I like. And like, so this kind of came, if memory serves, and I'm pretty sure that does, just came after the kind of Daredevil resurgence, if you will, with Quesada and
Kevin Smith
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that really brought that back, that character, because you got a top profile artist, a director, writer, turned comic book guy and everything.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of press. And those books are really good. And the following book's really good. And if you look on the shelf right there, that's where I really started digging into Daredevil hardcore.
I'm seeing that. He's not lying to you, listener.
Yeah, I've got many a Daredevil hardback. So that's and I'll be honest with you, some of the art got really crappy. And they talk about one of those artists in here, but like I'm not even like the biggest fan. But like some of the writing and stuff is so good that I can look past some of the kind of crummy art and everything. But this was a time when it was really starting to Daredevil was kicking in a little bit, and you can definitely see a lot of that influence here. I mean, there's even a couple of things that are just straight Quesada, drawings come to life.
Agreed. I'll tell you, Bruce, you saying that it's pretty faithful to the source material. I agree with you. The problem that I have with this movie, and it's a problem that I have a lot of the time with Frank Miller also. I know that Frank Miller is lauded, and he should be, because he's done some really great things. But at the same time, Frank Miller has some really stupid 14-year-old boy imagery.
Yeah.
And
yes, he does.
And there's a lot of that in this movie. Like, Daredevil, when we first see him, he's on the top of the church and he's bleeding, and the blood seems to make it onto the stained glass painting of the Virgin Mary where it looks like she's crying blood. That is stupid. That is ridiculous, and it immediately took me out where I was like, oh, here we go.
And that is Frank Miller.
Oh, it's completely Frank Miller.
And I put some of that on the director, too, because watching this, I felt like the director and maybe even the DP a little bit, but they really, really have a high opinion of themselves when it comes to visual imagery because, man, I feel like they try hard to give us some brilliant visual imagery that just comes across maybe not looking as brilliant as they think. But that blood drop is one of those things.
You're not wrong. Yeah. And Mark Steven Johnson is kind of a bit more of a flashy guy. He would, of course, do Ghost Rider after this one and stuff. So if that tells you anything.
Nothing but winners for this guy. And also, I'll say that the CG rendering, I think they're finally starting to figure out how to do CG rendering of human characters a little bit better in this movie compared to what we saw in Blade and even compared to what we saw in Raimi's Spider-Man. That CG was still got a little wonky, but I felt like they're starting to get better at it here with Daredevil.
Absolutely. And there's and I watched it in Blu-ray and everything, and while it's not perfect, it holds up a lot better than a movie of this age should.
Yeah, I agree with you there. This movie, first of all, do you guys like this? Do you guys like this movie?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it's okay, man. Yeah, I think I don't get the hate that it gets.
For me, this movie now, now that we're 13 years removed, it has kind of moved into that super special case of this movie. This movie is so crappy at times that I love it. It's one of those movies, where it's like, are you kidding me? We're literally watching a 20-minute like dance/fight scene.
Oh, it's a music video. There's no doubt about that. There's a couple music video moments. This is what early 2000s crap directing really came from.
Totally agree with you. And it's one of the things I find it, and I seem to bring this up all the time with you guys, but it's charming. There's something.
Oh, that's exactly the word I was trying to shoehorn in there, particularly that fight scene in the playground between Elektra and Matt Murdock. Charming is the word that comes to mind.
It's no basketball with Benjamin Bratt, but, again, what is?
Yeah. But, and it also helps that I absolutely adore Jennifer Garner, man. She's the pride of West Virginia, George Washington High School's favorite daughter.
And she got all her teeth and everything. Looking pretty, man.
She came and read books to my children's elementary school a couple of years ago.
Wow.
That woman is a saint.
Boy, would I like to have been in that elementary school.
2003, Jennifer Garner is getting it done.
Yeah, a friend
of mine graduated high school in the same class with 1991 Jennifer Garner, getting it done then, according to him.
Yeah, probably. It's like the Adam Carolla thing. It's just like most of these women have, at the age of 16, look in the mirror and just go, "Oh, well, this will be my future."
Yeah, exactly. The day she graduated, she got a diploma and a mirror and realized she needed to leave West Virginia.
It's just like, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing here? This is just way wrong.
I see she's still making poor romantic choices. However,
Oh man, this is the movie that led to that Ben Affleck marriage, isn't it?
Yeah, that one was for a long time though. You got to give them credit on that, and they, from what I understand, ended it pretty amicably, and everything with the kids and stuff involved. So,
ladies, never ever agree to having a gorgeous nanny. Don't hire a gorgeous nanny.
Hey, even Arnold, had an ugly looking nanny, and that still didn't work out.
That's Arnold. Man.
Anything that moves.
That's why my wife perfected the robot babysitter.
You got a Rosie in your house?
Yes, Robota.
Does she speak with an antiquated New York accent?
Well, she definitely helps the kids out on adventures a la Richie Rich.
Oh my gosh, that's another Leslie verse right there. Robota, the robot maid.
Hey, Mr. J.
Now they get us into the origin story here, and I kind of like this.
This
I'm
is
liking
a
their
good origin story. This is done well. It's like it gives you the beats and everything. It's very formulaic. It's very by the books and everything, but. It's 2003, man, and that's.
I got two issues with
kid, though. I like that kid that plays the young Matt Murdock. I think he's kind of cool.
The kid can act fairly decent.
They couldn't get a kid. They couldn't get a kid actor with red hair. They couldn't get a kid actor with actual red hair.
They got a really good deal on all that red hair dye, man. Just like makeup department.
They just put Kool-Aid in his hair. You get that cherry Kool-Aid, put it in your hair, it stains it for about 3 days.
So here's my other problem with this origin story. There's two other things. One is that isn't his father's name battling Jack Murdock in the comic book?
There's a
couple. Big shocker, everybody, but that is the one thing that bothered me the most of this whole movie.
Is it really?
Yeah, they call him Jack the Devil when it should be Battling Jack, but I guess they had to shoehorn in that Daredevil name choice.
Stupid.
All right, so I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna say this from here on out because I think we're gonna be able to point back to it for the rest of the episode. One of the major producers, well, two major producers on this. Number one is a guy that we know very, very well, Kevin Feige.
Yes.
That guy, I don't know what you've seen in the movies lately. Guy's been doing aces, so he's pretty much got a handle on that vibe. But the reason why I think some of the bad things went bad in this, and we can point to other works of his as well, is Mr. Avi Arad.
Yes.
And I tried to listen to Mark Steven Johnson and Avi Arad do a commentary track on the Blu-ray. I tried to listen to it. I cannot listen to that blowhard, and I ain't talking about Mark Steven Johnson. Avi Arad is just so up his own keister. It is ridiculous. So I think crap like that, we got to put some devil in his name or something like that. That feels like Avi Arad all over.
I call Avi Arad the most successful of the Golem brothers.
No, he really is.
So here's my other problem with the origin story: is kid with the red hair dye. It's not battling Jack Murdock, but here's the big one: is when Matt Murdock, the child, is running through the streets. What is that he's running through with with all the barrels? It's like they're making a biohazard barrel factory there. There's like 600 biohazard barrels.
There's so many of them. It's ridiculous.
The only thing that would have made it better is if they had shown the little boy with the bowl with 4 little turtles in it walking across the street at the same time.
You know what? I think that if they're going to do that next time, if we're ever going to go back to that, if they don't have that in there, they've made a mistake. I think they totally need to do that.
Yeah.
And something else, I think they missed a joke that Bruce Leslie definitely wouldn't have missed. But, instead of fighting against Crusher Krill, they have Daredevil's dad, that they call Jack the Devil Murdoch, fighting against John Romita. And I really wish at some point they would have said that it was John Romita Jr. and he's nowhere near as good a fighter as his old man was.
Oh, that's really good, man.
But yeah, man, they dropped a lot of Daredevil artists and writers' names in here. We got Bendis and Mac. And,
I found that so distracting. I found that totally distracting.
But here's the thing: that's distracting. That's distracting to us, though. No, the rest of the people don't know that.
Well, then what's the point? These Easter eggs are for us.
Yes.
And when they say, if it's not you that's going to take the dive, then who am I going to get to do it? Bendis? Miller? It just got to be too much. They named the rapist Quesada, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
And they really did go after him. It's just like, he's the worst, isn't he? It's just like, he's your boss.
Did the screenwriter really hate the guy? Like, was it a bad working relationship trying to develop this? I don't know. But that was the one that really got me, is why do you make the rapist Quesada?
I just sit there like, I could think of Joe just sitting in the theater going, hey, what the hell, man?
Come on, I greenlit this thing.
If it wasn't for me coming back on this book, this show wouldn't be here anyways.
I kind of saved Marvel, you guys.
Okay, fine.
Come on. Could you imagine what it would be like being in the room with Kevin Smith when he peed his pants when he found out he was going to be Jack Kirby?
Oh, I know it.
I'm going to say this, though. Looking back at Kevin Smith's cameo in this movie, he did really well. I
think he should continue to have his hair looking like it did in this movie for the rest of his life.
He didn't, he wasn't overacting or anything. It was pretty subtle. It was a lot more subtle than I remember it being.
Yeah, me too.
I remember it being a little bit more Kevin Smithy, but no, it was very kind of drawn back and everything. And I'm like, he had a really good cameo there, man.
So
I'm all for it.
If we can, I've got to bring this up because I couldn't believe it when I read this. So our friends on the internet, somebody spent enough time that they wanted to see what Kevin Smith's character was typing out on the keyboard as he walks in. Literally, what Kevin Smith is typing on the keyboard is he's writing on the laptop. He goes, "I'll drop you like a 3-year-old corpse's testicles if you." That's literally where he stops.
Oh man, something tells me that came off of a message board that he kind of ran back in the day.
Oh man, but and we had a nice little Stan Lee cameo during the origin story, incorporating it where he's an old man about to step out in front of a truck, and the blind kid saves him with his mobility cane.
My God, he's been 98 years old for the past 50 years.
He really has. He's like, you will be forever old.
I want to tell him he hasn't aged a day since he did that cameo in Trial of the Incredible Hulk, but the downside is he looked 98 back then.
He looked old and distraught. He just looked less fashionable in the Trial style of the Incredible Hulk. That's all. It's just like he updated his sweaters a little bit. That's all.
You know, the best part of this origin story, I will say, is it's so oddly satisfying seeing AJ from The Sopranos get his butt handed to him. I can't explain it, but there's something about that kid at that time specifically where you're like, I hate that kid.
That is the definition of punchable face right there. And because he's a child, you don't want to be like, I really want to punch this child in the face, but you do.
Really?
Yeah. Or at least hit him upside the face with my mobility cane a few times.
I did like his two lackey friends who were just like the definition of lackeys.
No, boy!
They were almost Three Stooges caricatures.
Yeah. And then what do you guys think about when we get introduced to Bullseye? You know, Kingpin calls in the man or the assassin or whoever his top-notch hitman is. He places a phone call to somewhere in the United Kingdom, and we get introduced to Colin Farrell, an actor that I'm always going to love, even if some people jump off the Farrell train. I'm going to be there till the end.
Farrell train.
Here's the thing that I love about the Bullseye character in this movie, right? So my note here, it says, so Kingpin, he spares no expense. Let's get the super expensive hitman from the UK, right? Let's get the big contract killer. But when we bring him over here, let's fly him coach.
I love it, man.
That's so ridiculous.
Hey, the rich didn't get rich by giving the money away.
We're gonna spend a whole lot of money on the guy, but the travel, we gotta budget that. We gotta be careful about that travel budget.
I even love him going through the metal detector at the airport, like they find the paper clip that he has hidden under his tongue, but he's got like this gigantic steel chain around his neck that doesn't seem to give him any problem.
He's got the steel chain, he's got the belt, he's got more rings and bullcrap on than you could possibly imagine. The only thing he takes out of his pockets are like a pen and a toothpick. First of all, toothpick ain't going to do nothing, player.
Smart Money says he has some intimate body piercings as well.
I would probably put good money on that character because he does have like 10 earrings on already.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Pat Crawford Brown there for being his seatmate there in the plane. That lady is always great in everything she's
totally
in.
agree.
She's just like the old lady, the go-to old lady for sure.
And the sad thing is, what he didn't know is she had a peanut allergy, so he was going to kill her regardless.
So if we could go backwards for a second, so that dive bar where where Daredevil shows up and he starts beating the crap out of the bad guys there,
right?
Is that the most beautifully decorated dive bar you've ever seen in your life?
I've never been to a dive bar where the ceilings were 20 feet tall.
It is so it's elegantly appointed. There's a lot of space. There's so many people in there. How many criminals are in that
Josie's
town?
is wide and like sprawling, and it's well populated.
It's so ridiculous.
Am I wrong, or did they actually have a motorcycle inside the bar?
2 different motorcycles, sir. And there's and the part I don't
and
understand.
Who's to say that there's not more?
And then they pour alcohol on the back tires so the tires can spin. It's ridiculous.
That was his
so
audition
ridiculous.
for directing Ghost Rider.
But these are the things that I know it sounds like I'm complaining. These are the things that I love about this stupid movie.
It's like, no, that's good.
That's really great. Like, how much did the criminal underworld spend on elegantly appointing this dive bar? Because those pendant lights that they have hanging, there's like 40 of them in there at like $1,000 a pop.
Hey, man, they're nothing if not fancy over there in Hell's Kitchen.
So good.
And what about when Joey Pants shows up as reporter Ben Urich wearing a backward hat that hasn't looked so stylish since back when, let's say, I watched Riff Raff on the animated Heathcliff show as a kid.
Man, that show oddly keeps coming up, doesn't it? Like, why do I keep coming up to? Why do I keep going to Heathcliff in the Cadillac Cat?
It's a standard.
Man, now talk about very different from the Ben Urich that I got to know and love from the Netflix series.
I like this Ben Urich well enough. He's
I
smart.
feel like they kind of wanted to make him Spider Jerusalem, but they couldn't quite.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they were going that way, and they were like, we can't give him the glasses because the glasses are copywritten.
But I'll say this, though. There's like a lot of really... and again, that's this whole movie's kind of filled with them as very comic booky shots, and one of them is when they're in the subway there, and he just goes, "That Daredevil does not exist." Throws his cigarette, and the D's light up and everything.
which I thought that was great.
Which brings me to this question: does he keep like a little thing of gasoline on him, where like, oh, you know what? I'll just spray this around so that when Ben finds the trail of gas, that he can just light it on fire and it'll be super cool.
Well, the
I
red
wanna know how
canister and
many
the red
times-
suit, they all go together.
I want to know how many times he's left those double Ds, but no one's lit a match, and he's just sat up in the shadow somewhere going, darn it, it didn't work again.
Come on, guys, look at the ground. Smell it.
Why don't you light up the ground?
Hey, that's a really great idea, you guys.
Let's light that thing up hardcore. Like, wait a minute, who's saying this?
Why does that blind man over there with a cup want us to light fire to the ground?
Hey, anybody smell gasoline over there? You might want to light that up, see what happens.
It kind of smells like
snap.
interlocking Ds.
You ain't Daredevil, are you? No, why would you think that? I'm a blind man.
Somebody is a big fan of Dunkin' Donuts. no, it's Daredevil.
But when Ben's looking at the D's there and the reflection of them in the glasses and stuff,
That is the most
that's
hardcore.
so cool comic book stuff,
really
man. I
is.
love it.
It is indeed.
I'd love to be the guy, though, that sneaks around behind him and adds a P so people think it stands for Diamond Dallas Page. This is yet again the work of the world's greatest yoga hero,
I
Diamond Dallas
think that
Page.
we have really reached a level here that no one else in podcasting history has ever come to, bringing in Diamond Dallas Page into the Daredevil from 2003.
Meanwhile, Daredevil's shaking his fist. Damn you, Leslie! Damn you!
Okay, guys, help me, because I always get this one in the wrong order. Is it Michael Duncan Clark or
Yes.
Michael Clark Duncan?
Michael
Michael Clark Duncan.
Okay, man. So Wilson Fisk. I got to tell you, when they initially kind of announced the casting, I was a little, this is 2003, 13 years ago. I was a little questionable about it. But man, this guy he's huge.
I was
If only
so
he
on
hadn't
board.
passed too soon, he would have been the perfect Man Mountain Marco for the Luke Cage series.
Yeah. I was on board from day one because at that point, 2000, we'll say 2 when they announced it, I was just like,
Yep.
well, who else are you going to get? I mean, that is a giant mountain of a man, bald head and everything. I was just like, it's like the guy from Green Mile is going to be Kingpin. You're like, well, duh. Yeah, of course he is. Because that guy is like, who else could do it?
There was a solid 10 years there that if anybody had a friend who was a really, really big guy, you just called him Green Mile,
Uh-huh. Very true. So here's my question about Kingpin's office. It's got to be really hard to get any work done in that office because of the blue neon that's constantly on in the background where you're like, Christ, I'm just trying to do paperwork here. Wilson, turn on a light.
There's so much crap going on. Like the Windex alone in this place. Everything is shiny and glistening, and it's just like, whoever has to clean this, I feel so bad for him.
The other thing, too, about having Michael Clark Duncan be Kingpin is that he clearly has a problem bending down, like his knees hurt and his back hurts and stuff.
He's a big man.
So literally all you need to do to defeat him is just throw something on the ground. He's like, hold on, I almost got it.
Here's a nickel. Go pick that up.
Hold on.
Well, my Wizard magazine dream casting for Kingpin had always been probably Andre the Giant. So it took me a little while to warm up to Michael Clark Duncan, who was awesome.
Daredevil, Monday night,
I was like,
you and me in the Hartford Civic Center.
anybody got a peanut? That's all I would want him to say the whole time.
Oh man. Just plain no.
But he does make a good Kingpin here, man, and I love it. I love this guy. I mean, he's no Vincent D'Onofrio, but then again, who is?
Yeah, it's tough to do that, but I mean, I love even just like the small subtle hints back when the flashbacks of him as a kid and everything, just the body of the car, rising up when he gets out of it and everything, just the you really know that this is a big dude, and they shoot him he's a big guy, but he's not that big.
Well, I think they probably got him on Apple boxes for some of those.
Well, that's what they
shots.
did for all the Green Mile
Sturdy
stuff,
Apple
and
boxes.
they just really made him look even bigger than he actually was. And I know they did that here too, and because they're always shooting kind of almost below the belt, just to make him that much bigger. And because Ben Affleck's not a short dude, he's at least 6 feet.
He's my height. He's 6'3".
Yeah, so he's a big dude. So you gotta make him look gigantic in order to really kind of fight against that.
When they were filming Talladega Nights there in Charlotte, he knocked on one of my friend's doors looking for his cat that I guess he brought with him to the shoot, who had escaped. And they were a little timid about opening that front door at first.
Well, he's a monster. That guy was just he's just a beast.
Come on, he's
of a
only
man.
about 8 feet tall. He's not that big.
He just looks like, but if there's anybody who kind of looks like a Rob Liefeld drawing, it's him.
Yeah, it's
because he looks like he could just grab you with one hand and just pop your head once he squeezed you.
Well, there's another actor right there who's done more than one superhero character.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays the French guy in Sin City.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that in the first Sin City because unfortunately he wasn't around for the second. But I think Minute might have been the character's name, something like that.
Yeah.
What about? I'm trying to think. Could they have given a smaller role to Ellen Pompeo as Karen Page?
It's so funny, man. It's one of those moments where you're like, oh, you guys don't know who that is yet. You know, it like feels that way.
Yeah, I like that one going back. I was just like, oh, yeah, I remember they kind of tried to bring her in there a little bit, but really didn't do anything with, which is fine because you got so much crap going on with this thing in the first place. You don't need to add another.
They were saving her for the sequel.
And here's the thing, man. This movie does set up for a sequel, and, you know, you'll never get one, but
well, unless you count Elektra. Can't wait to see that. I've never seen that, and I hope it's this good.
Gosh, I reviewed it on Bubba Wheat's podcast. It is one of I'm like, you guys should be thankful that I saw that like a year ago because it's going to be at least another year before that's out of my system I want to watch it. My God,
I've seen it. It's awful.
Whew. It is a mess, boy.
Also, you know, Turk gets a little bit of a name drop, though. Personally, I think they should have just made Coolio's character Turk. That
would have been interesting. At least something, but I mean, I didn't notice the Turk drop the first go like 13 years ago. I didn't notice it, but
yeah. And what do you think about Coolio, man? I think he added something to this director's cut. I like the Coolio cut.
Yeah. So in the theatrical cut, there is no Coolio, and I know that really, and it's weird because Coolio is featured in. Maybe I don't want to say fairly prominently, but prominently enough in one of the trailers. And then when you saw the movie, it's just like, well, where's Coolio? Not that I was like, oh my God, please give me some Coolio.
I came here for Coolio.
Please more Coolio.
They had the movie poster that just had a big picture of Ben Affleck staring at Coolio, kind of like that Dangerous Minds thing.
Well, you know, I got to tell you that now we're in what is now quickly becoming my favorite TV show that's never existed, which is Matt Murdock, Terrible Lawyer, because this movie we have like 3 different episodes of Matt Murdock, Terrible Lawyer. Because here's how it goes down, right? The first thing that we see is there's photographic evidence of his client being beaten. There's police evidence, and he still can't win the case for his client. We got that. And after, you know, Daredevil beats the crap out of him and all that stuff, later on he needs to file the appeal. He can't file the appeal because he's too late to file the appeal because he's busy on the playground stalking that girl, and he's like play fighting with her on the playground, so he can't do it. Right? Then
see, I'm waiting for that episode of Matt Murdock, Terrible Lawyer, where Foggy reveals to him, I've got to tell you something, Matt. You never went to law school. I just took you to a bunch of law movies at the theater and told you it was the lecture hall.
This has been a heck of a make-a-wish.
So then we get to Coolio's character, and Coolio, he doesn't even show up for the first day of his trial.
And all the notes are in Braille.
And all the notes are in Braille, so he doesn't even have he's not even helping his partner at all. He is. I love the idea of, like, there's no Daredevil at all. It's just Matt Murdock as a terrible, terrible lawyer.
It's like he's not doing anything else, just hanging out.
Going up against John Larroquette. Going up against John Larroquette in Night Court and still losing.
My God, we got some old man radio happening tonight.
You guys remember Night Court and Heathcliff?
What about Jon Favreau's Foggy Nelson? How does Foggy Nelson compare to Happy Hogan with you guys?
Well, here's what it feels like to me, at least in the director's cut. I don't remember the movie cut anymore, the movie edit, but it feels like Mark Steven Johnson literally just turns on the camera and then he goes, Jon Favreau, be funny for a couple minutes. We'll just film the whole thing. We'll film the whole thing. And he literally just keeps talking and talking and talking. And there is a nice little back and forth between Favreau and Affleck where they clearly get along. You can tell that they got along on set. And that's fun to watch. But after a while, it's like, okay, we get it. We get it. Like he's funny and goofy and we get it. Now, to compare him to Happy... It's the same guy. It is literally the same guy.
Mr. Favreau, would you like to play yourself again?
Has longer hair.
That's about it. But this is the exact same character from Iron Man or from Daredevil to Iron Man.
Hey, now in one of those Iron Man movies, he does just stand around a lot.
That is true. and he gets blowed up real good in Iron Man 3.
There you go. So, but
yeah. Do you think that Favreau learned anything about making superhero movies from Daredevil that he took to Iron Man? Because I think he had to bring something. Even though I can't see it, It's hard to think that being on this set wouldn't impact you a little bit. Maybe even if it was things he wanted to not do.
You know, that's interesting, man, because I always thought it was the Thura that really made him ready to shoot Iron Man, but I bet it's both being on the Daredevil set and Zathura that did it.
Well, I'll definitely tell you this, guys. Fantastic episode of, and I'm sure you can get it on iTunes and everything right now, is Robert Rodriguez has a show on the El Rey Network called The Director's Chair. And the most recent one they did had Jon Favreau. It was like a two-parter episode. It had Jon Favreau. He's there for an hour, and then... what's his nose there? Walking Dead, Green Mile. Why is my brain
Darabont?
Darabont. Frank Darabont. So Frank Darabont, I'm like, I could say his face. Why can I think of his name? So Frank Darabont's on for an hour. Favreau's on for an hour. And it's a really interesting interview with Favreau talking about the history of his stuff and everything and the trials and tribulations and the failure of Zathura, even though it was like a critical success. Critics absolutely love that movie, but nobody went to see it.
Right.
But what he learns in that and stuff. So definitely check that out if you're interested.
Okay, now I am going to stop. I'm going to stop the show. So Bruce, you were the only one between the three of us who isn't divorced. Please get off of the microphone.
I've got to shoehorn one quick thing in, and I'll let you guys discuss this. But at the end of the movie, Ben Urich has a computer with the worst design flaw ever, because there's a button to print what you've just typed next to a button to delete every single thing you've done. And those buttons are so close together that you know he's lost a few stories by
somebody
having
in
a little bit of a fat finger.
Dumb art department just goes, well, we don't need more than one shot.
That is one of those shows where it's like, hey, listen, we don't want to overly complicate this thing. Let's just make it one thing where it's delete the whole thing or copy.
But the great part is that it also just deletes one character at a time.
Yeah,
and it just goes do. Like, how about select all, or close it out and hit don't save?
You know, I got. There's a couple of questions that we weren't able to talk about here, and I have. One is, what do you think Daredevil calls his lair there? His Daredevil lair.
That's a good question.
Because there is one part of his apartment there where it is clearly just Daredevil stuff.
The Daredevil lair. Yeah, it is. That's like he's got the Daredevil's corner.
Daredevil's corner. That's pretty good. I like that. It's because as we were going through it, I was like, you know that this guy's just got full-on Batman envy where he's like, man, I'm almost Batman. I'm so close to being Batman.
I wasn't such a crummy lawyer. I mean, if I took on some guilty people, I could have that sweet Batman lair, but no, I need,
Why isn't my dead dad rich?
But one thing that I do really like, though, is the fact that they've got him in the in the sleep chamber and everything.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that was a really good point, and that I don't, to my knowledge, I haven't seen in many other Daredevil places or anything. But to really just go, hey, while you're him, your senses are constantly being bombarded with everything, and the only way to get out of it is submerge yourself in water, close out this soundproof lid and everything, so you can sit there, and that's the only way that you're able to get any peace and quiet in your life.
It's really like you're setting me up for a meatball here, man.
No,
because that was my other question.
Yeah,
is that
I think it's really good. Now, granted, he puts literally a scoop of salt in there. It's like you have to have like 40 pounds worth of salt in these things to make them work properly.
But here are my two questions about the deprivation tank.
All
One,
right.
that is not a normal deprivation tank.
No, it is not. It's cool looking.
Let's say it's a $250,000 deprivation tank, and that is on the light side.
Yeah. Because it's super it's got galvanized steel in it.
He doesn't even have to press a button to make the cover go on top.
He does basically mind open it.
Like it just senses that he's in there, and then it
get up.
Yes, exactly. So low end $250,000. Where is Daredevil getting the money for that deprivation tank?
That's why the rest of the thing looks like a rundown warehouse.
But as you know, even in Hell's Kitchen, that is a massive, massive apartment. I don't care where he is.
15-foot ceilings again.
Again, there is no way he has the money for that. And here's the other part too: is how did he get that deprivation tank in the apartment? Did it come with the apartment where the real estate agent's like, look, what you're asking for an abandoned warehouse and a deprivation tank? That's really hard to come. You know what? Darkman used to live here. I've got the perfect apartment for you. Darkman used to live here, and then he fixed the skin thing, and I think you're perfect to come in here.
Yeah, why not? No, that works. That is the theory I'm down with. Is this is Darkman's former pad? Perfect.
So here's another thing we talked about before the show started. This movie is completely flummoxed and cursed by probably the most dated soundtrack of any movie.
Golly bum.
Where it seemed like at one point it was like, wow, we're not hearing any of those crappy Daredevil songs because it is the director's cut, and then it's like, oh, there you go. There you go, right there.
Crank up the Evanescence, kids. It's 2003, and that's already a little bit dated.
It feels so old from the music alone.
It felt old then, and that was what was like. That's to me. That was also the like kind of irking part where it was just like, oh gosh, this. Like I knew then, like this is not going to age well, and it hasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another question I have for you. Do you think that Daredevil regretted getting the custom billy club when Bullseye throws it and kills Elektra's dad with it, where he's like, ah, man, that's going to get traced back to me. Why did I go for that really expensive billy club?
It looked awesome, and he's got like 8 of them.
Yeah, he does.
They're all sitting up there. Again, very Batman.
They're all up in the Daredevil corner.
Daredevil's corner. The thing that killed me, though, is that it's just like, how bad is Elektra's eyesight to where she just thinks that he's the one who did that?
Well, she doesn't see him. She doesn't see Bullseye, right? All she sees is Daredevil.
He is only like maybe 40 feet down the road, though.
Right. It's
a little.
Look, there's a lot going on.
My dad just got killed. I don't know what's happening.
It's always raining here.
There's stuff that's I can't explain most of it. So if we take that away from it, then fine. But boy, does she forgive him fast, though.
Yeah, there is that. And also, when you're seeing her train as Elektra when she goes back to her house, who sets up that pulley system in her house? Like, is it something she sets up, or does she hire?
Are they on a timer,
right,
or is it like once this bag reaches like X amount of weight, then the next bags drop down?
Is it
it
a pressure system on the ground? Like, is there a general contractor? Did she do it herself?
Who's cleaning this up?
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing that I'm thinking. I'm like, who's cleaning up this sand?
She keeps cutting these bags of sand, and she's letting it go, and then she just walks out of the room.
And the worst part is she did have like a really bad art project where she's just like, I'm going to draw like what a 2-year-old would draw a Daredevil face on this bag.
How far away is Castaway from this movie? When's Castaway? Because
Castaway,
it looks like Wilson to me.
It's pretty close. They're pretty. I can't think off the top of my head, but they're pretty darn close. I'm going to look that up.
So one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about this scene is when she drags her side blades on the hardwood floor.
3 years earlier, by the way.
Oh, 3 years earlier.
So we literally stole Wilson.
That is Wilson.
So she's dragging the size.
She's dragging the size across the hardwood floor and just ripping up those beautiful hardwood floors. And I am dying inside watching this happen. I'm like, you spoiled rich girl. You know how much work went into those floors? And the other part that makes me crazy is that if it's an actual hardwood floor, somebody had to go in and they had to reset it. They had to keep resetting it every time so she could do it again and again. That is so much work, I can't even tell you, for something that no one gives a crap about. Like, oh, she's so tough that she's got to drag her swords across the... Oh, my God, it made me absolutely mental watching the show.
And that's the reason we hate Daredevil.
I love this movie. I know it sounds like I'm bagging on it. I really like this movie. It really has crossed the bridge of this is so goofy that I love it.
Yeah, there's enough like there's enough seriousness in it, and yet at the same time enough corniness that it all kind of it all evens out well enough.
Colin Farrell really just kicks them over the edge for the stuff of like, listen, I'm in a completely different movie than the rest of these people who are playing it real.
Yeah, I'm just gonna dial it to 11, and it's just like I do like the bullseye on the head though. I don't know why that works. It shouldn't work.
Oh, I hate it.
It seems I don't know. I like it. But would you rather a full black on costume with the little thing on top?
No.
See, there you go.
No, I wouldn't. But it makes
if those are your two choices.
It makes me wonder: is he trying? He's trying to hide, right? Because he's a hitman, so you want to keep low.
does wear a knit cap a lot.
He does wear the knit cap a lot. Also, the eyebrows, man. Like you didn't want to shave that unibrow. You want to look like Bert. Okay, that's fine. You go ahead and look like Ernie's
Bert,
friend.
What are we
Bert.
doing? I'm not Bert.
No, Ernie, no.
But no, he's like it's cool enough. I will say this, and this is true for the entire movie. Sound design in this thing is great.
Is it?
It really, yeah. If you listen to this thing in 5.1 and really crank it up and everything, it sounds fantastic. They really did a great job with kind of putting sounds really in all 5 channels, putting them everywhere. Now, we'll talk about this because we kind of skipped over this a little bit when Matt first kind of gets his kind of radar vision, if you will. I really like that. I thought that was like a really great representation of everything that's coming to him. And for the most part, they really don't over-explain it. They explain it a little bit, but not so much to where some comic book movies, oh my God, they just get into it. It's just like, due to the this and that and the other thing and the but. And I'm like, I don't really want to know that. But they did it enough within that first second. Go, oh, this is what's going on here. This is kind of how, all the sound and stuff works and how overwhelming it is for everything that's coming out. I really thought that was a great thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I can't remember if it was you or Bruce who I was in total agreement with the Netflix Daredevil. And they do it in this movie too, where they don't overdo it to the point where you're just like, we get it. He has radar. Like they don't it feels like they don't overdo it in this. And I remembered it wrong because I remembered it like, Jesus, they're really just beating us over the head with, yes, he sees through radar. Like, but rewatching it,
it doesn't feel as aggressive as you might have thought it did back in the day.
Right.
And it's pretty cool because, like I said, I was going to film school then, and we had like our gen ed classes and everything, where they had like a whole group of people and everything. So they had the film people with the the music people and all that kind of stuff. And one of the guys that I sat next to was a blind guy. And I was telling him about the Daredevil movie and stuff because I was just like, well, you might find this interesting, being a blind man yourself. Because I was really telling him about the sound design and how, and like I was telling him about the kind of radar vision and everything and what that, kind of looked like. And he's like, oh, that seems really cool. He's just like, I might go see that. Because I was telling him about the sound design is really, really great. So he went to go to watch it, if you will. And he's just like, boy, your descriptions were a lot better than that movie was. I'm just like, well, look, it is a half visual medium. I'm not going to lie to you, but to me, it was one of those things that was nice seeing that, and of course in the Netflix series as well. And I haven't had a ton of experience with blind folks, but from what I've seen and everything in my interactions, they've all been pretty darn accurate. And like as far as like the way people look, how they, kind of get around and stuff like that, to where it doesn't feel like, the traditional, like, where's everything at, God? I don't see the stuff.
Yeah, everything's like the miracle worker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Water. It's like, it's not that, but it seems like it's a little bit more realistic and stuff. And I appreciated that in all of them, be it this or the, Netflix series.
I do have to say that there is that one moment where he's folding the bill money into his wallet so he knows what's a 1, what's a 5, what's a 10. He folds it all a different way. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And I know that they pulled that from real life. They had to have.
Yeah, exactly. I thought. I mean, there's enough like really nice little touches in there that there's no reason they don't have to have those. Those could completely go out, and those were even in the standard theatrical cut and everything. So I think they felt like we need to honor this as best we can and not make it silly and over the top, because it is basically a blind guy that can see, but he is still a blind man.
Yeah, and it is silly and over the top.
But yeah, and that's what's, and it's also at the same time, the nerd in you does go, well, Daredevil can just, touch the top of that bill and know what it is.
I did that 100 times watching this movie where I'm like, just shut up, brain. Let me watch this stupid movie.
The nerd just comes out and just goes, well, he can feel what the ink in the thing is, so I know that he knows that that's a 5 just by reaching in his thing and just kind of touching it a little bit.
The only thing that actually can't read is the computer screens, according to the comic books.
And the funny thing is, though, is that like the blind guy that I was in school with and everything had a computer that had all the the talkie stuff and all that stuff, which I was fascinated with. I'm like, this is really cool, because I had never seen anything like that before. But
sure.
Neat.
So the worst line in the movie to me, because immediately I started laughing, is the line where Kingpin says to Bullseye, he goes, "How do you kill a man without fear?" Really, there's like a million different ways. If the guy isn't afraid of
guns,
anything,
knives, explosives.
And immediately my first thought, because I think in jokes all the time, is that, how do you kill a man without fear? And Bullseye's like, I don't know. and
Same way.
So the way he said what he should have said is, "You dare him to pee on the electric fence." It was my first thought.
Where do I go to pee? Oh, it's right over there. 4 steps to your left. There. No, little more. Perfect. Pee right there.
Let me tell you, the guy who is a chicken didn't pee on the electric fence. I hear you're the man without fear. You want to pee on the electric fence?
Come
Daredevil?
on.
You are a man without fear.
Stop being a wuss, you big baby. Pee on the fence like a man. That's not good.
So did we talk about why we're watching this today? Did we talk about?
Oh no, we didn't, and that's a darn shame, and I can't believe that I had forgotten that. But yeah, the reason that we're watching this is because of the people on Patreon. You guys voted for this. You're the reason why we watched this. So anyone, as we said, whether you donated $1, whether you donated more than that, you got to choose on this, and you're gonna get one pretty soon. I'm kind of putting together some of the movies that we want to, and we'll kind of rotate some of these ones in and out and all that kind of good stuff. But we got some ideas for you. But it is because of the Patreon folks that we watch this movie today, and that we're going to continue to do that once a month. We're going to give you 4 or 5 movies for the Patreon people to choose from. Whichever one is voted as the highest, that's one we're going to watch and review. So you guys can really make us watch some crap. I'm glad that it was this, because this was not. Now, granted, the 4 or 5 that we gave were actually pretty decent movies overall.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad, but it's going to get to a point where there's going to be some crummy ones in there, I'll tell you that.
And I got to say, Adam J. Portrais, this might be your finest idea, is having Patreon subscribers pick a movie once a month for us so that we don't have to do the legwork on that.
Because, gosh, you guys don't know, like, when the show stops and everything, we're just like, oh, what's this? I'm walking over to the DVD shelf going, well, we kind of, how long has it been since we talked about a Batman flick? No, we got to, because there's a lot of Batman stuff, as you might imagine. Like, no, so this helps us out at least once a month with all this kind of stuff.
And then there's me being a sucky baby because I don't want to keep watching these stupid cartoon movies that you guys just insist on watching.
So if you want to make Sean actually watch one of these horrible animated movies, patreon.com/HMP. So let's talk about kind of the little finales here and everything, kind of wrap it all up. We do have Elektra's death, which I thought, because like you do at the time, I thought they were gonna at least save that to the sequel and everything.
Yeah.
But man, they dug into that super fast, didn't they?
Well, this is during the time. Don't forget also where they're like, most comic book movies are like, oh, we got to get it all in now because we don't know if there's ever going to be another one of these. And I do understand that, especially in 2003. And so let's just pile on Daredevil. With Daredevil, we'll have Kingpin, we'll have Bullseye, we'll have Elektra, because we need to get it all in now because we don't know if we'll ever get another chance to do this. Although, by watching this movie, you completely see, oh, you guys thought you were making a sequel.
This is clearly where you left it off for another one.
Yeah, you're clearly trying to make a sequel. And they did, the terrible Elektra, which is one of the worst superhero movies ever made. Anyway, I wish that they didn't have the end cap on this where we see that Elektra is actually still alive. They could have even have held that off until the next movie, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And I think that now, with a more deft hand at the helm, and we've seen it, actually. We've seen that there is a way more deft hand working on Daredevil properties now. They would never have done that. They're not going to show you that she's back already and blah, 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 blah. To me, this is literally like watching the old Batman television series, watching this show. It really does feel like that to me because it's kind of goofy, it's kind of silly, but it's charming. And so, in the Frank Miller visuals, like I said at the beginning of this, they're just so ham-fisted and 14-year-old boy, oh my God, that's so cool. And, him pulling teeth out of his head and stuff and being completely unaffected by it instead of like, oh my God, I just pulled the teeth out of my head.
Again, post Fight Club, so that's another little thing in there where you're just like, well, they did this in Fight Club 4 years ago and it made him a BA then, let's do it now.
Right, and that is a Mark Steven, whatever his name is, Johnson, that is a hallmark of his, it seems like, oh, they did that in that movie, I like that, let's do that over here in our movie.
It's like Tarantino does that but makes it cooler.
Well, he also puts a spin on it, at least a 10% spin on it, so he makes it his own.
And usually doesn't take it from movies that are only 4 years old.
Yes, also true. So the Elektra ending is is satisfying for what this movie is. If I saw it in the Netflix Daredevil, I would have been enraged.
Yeah.
But that is not what we're watching.
But I did like that it was through Bullseye. It was a stab right through. Just the fact that the shirt didn't break and everything, that it gave you that just iconic, look and everything right from the books. I like that. It's such little kind of junky stuff, but it really works.
It's fan service.
I liked the whole the fight scene between Daredevil and Bullseye with the piano or the big organ stuff and everything, playing off a lot of the sound stuff. And like we said, the CGI there looks a lot better than many of these movies have in the past.
Yeah.
As far as some animated people jumping up and doing some impossible stuff, it doesn't look fantastic, but looks a lot better than what you would probably think a 13-year-old movie would look.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And the Daredevil costume, I remembered it being a lot clunkier. It's not.
I like it. I still like that one. I mean, the new ones, I'm like, they're very different. So
yeah.
I don't even know if I can really say like, oh, one's better than the other. They're very different. But I've always liked more of being able to see the nose.
Yeah.
Because that's just more traditional Daredevil, and that's just the traditional comic book guy in me.
Well, the Netflix Daredevil is more of a tactical costume, whereas the Affleck Daredevil is a superhero costume. Yeah. And they both have their points.
Yeah.
But I would just wish
Affleck's was a bit more matte, because it is very shiny.
It really is.
Gosh, it's shiny.
No one's trying to keep anything a secret in this movie.
It's just like, bing, 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 bing. It's just like, man, you step out and there's a little bit of light on there.
And I'm going to have a raised Daredevil on, like DD, on my costume so everybody knows.
I still like that. I just like...
Look, it looks cool.
I feel it's missing in the new one. I'm just like, why don't we have a little... Just give me a little something, man. Superman's got his S. Batman's got his bat. Throw a little DD on there for crying out loud.
Look, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a stylistic choice, and I do understand why they did it. It's just a little... Like, no one's keeping a low profile.
You're not wrong there. And then he fights Kingpin and stuff. A pretty cool scene. Again, more of the entire place is glass and shiny and with the water. And I love how fight over, water go off. They were just like, look, that's all we can afford. Shut her down.
Well, also he throws Daredevil through the ceiling tile and he falls down. Is that going to hurt more than getting your back almost broken on the guy's knee? I don't understand that, but
it looks more awesome.
Very true.
You got to throw him in the air. So all that kind of stuff happens, and like we said, the end goes through, and but I do like the final shot there, very very Daredevil #1 from Crusada and everything. I really dig that. I thought that looked super cool, and I'm like, more of that stuff. But yeah, so that's it. All right, so let's get down to it. We need to find out how this movie relates to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
He was born Artis Ivy Jr. on August 1st, 1963. Before reaching stardom, he was a firefighter by trade, and legend has it that he got his stage name as a play on the name Julio Iglesias. All of these things seem impossible when you learn that the person I've been describing is none other than Coolio. Coolio, rap star of the 90s.
For a hot minute.
Coolio shows up in the director's cut of Daredevil because much like Marky Mark, Vanilla Ice, and Shaquille O'Neal, Coolio attempted to make the transition from hip-hop artist to actor. And while his character Dante Jackson in Daredevil never won him any awards, he's not terrible in it, which is a lie because he's terrible in it. And I'm trying to be nice. These days, Coolio has a cookbook and makes appearances on shows like Cupcake Wars and Chopped. But back in 1997, he was in Batman and Robin and Burn Hollywood Burn, which was supposed to be a scorching indictment on Hollywood, but ended up being a boring, poorly made movie that had Coolio and Sylvester Stallone in it. The $10 million movie would go on to make $50,000 at the box office, which seems like a lot if you've ever seen it. Seriously, that movie is awful. It is awful. It is awful. So there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection. Now, rapist Joe Quesada. Let's review this movie so we can start working immediately on The Crow 2. Seriously? The Crow 2.
This is where our lives lead us, folks.
The Crow 2. Okay.
All right. So here on Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. So if you want to check that out, and of course like us on Facebook, go to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast, and it's right up there on top of the screen. While you're up there, take a look at it, see what it consists of, hit that like page, and follow us for all the cool stuff. We're streaming live. We streamed live just before the show tonight and everything. So
I didn't even know we were streaming live.
It's a cool deal. Yeah, we were like we ended up the stream, and Sean was like, "Oh, we're streaming now. What's this now?"
I really didn't know.
What's going on? He's just holding his phone on a weird thing. What's going on? So with Daredevil 2003, I got to say this was a movie that I saw back in 2003 in Orlando, where I was living at the time, and maybe it was one of the, and it was, because if memory serves, it came out in February, and I believe that was like the month that I had just moved down and everything. 1 month later, I would meet Jim Lee. So I'm like, crazy things happened at the beginning of that thing where it's just like, boy, this movie in Orlando was pretty keen. But yeah, I liked it then, and I think this director's cut is a superior cut to the theatrical version. They get rid of the kind of, the lovey-dovey scene. They reorder a couple of things. And you do get to see a bit more of the action, because the one that was theatrical was PG-13. The director's cut is an R-rated cut and everything. It's not so R-rated that don't show to kids, but it's got a little bit more. There's an F-bomb in it from Bullseye, which I still remembered. Like the line from the theatrical was like, "I need a bloody costume," kind of thing. So it works either way. Honestly,
yeah.
I don't think that it helped or hurt one way or the other.
If we've learned one thing from the Hero Movie Podcast, it is you don't need to curse.
Not really. No, you can make up funny little things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I still liked it, and I gotta say, as silly as some of the stuff is, like you said, I think this is a movie that has a lot of the like dumb, corny things in it, and still feels a little bit of its time, 13 years ago, but still holds up as a pretty good origin story. Decent enough action, a good performance from Affleck and Jennifer Garner and everything, even though she doesn't have a ton to do. Micheal Clark Duncan maybe could use a little bit more character work, as could Colin Farrell's character with Bullseye and everything. But given the limitations and everything, I still got to say, I had a fun time watching this, and I wouldn't mind watching it yet again. So I am going to go a nice solid Tim Drake on this one.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I'm going Damian Wayne all day, because this is the most vanilla superhero movie ever. I like it, but it's one of those things where it's embarrassing. I mean, it's embarrassing to be a superhero fan watching this movie if somebody walks in who's not a superhero.
I'm not watching the Daredevil, the Ben Affleck Daredevil. No.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine, but it's one of those things where, I have shame because I've been caught watching this movie.
Oh, drat.
And so it's a Damian Wayne for me all day.
I texted Bruce, because Bruce had to drop out real quick, and I texted him back. He didn't tell me what his rating is. I'm gonna say Carrie Kelly, just on account of, I don't know. I don't know. It's got its place, but maybe it's not the best. I don't know. So I'm gonna ascribe that to him until he says otherwise. So that is it, everybody. As we said, next week we are going to be talking about, God bless. So let's rewind the clock a little bit. So last year we reviewed The Crow, which I've talked to some people that listen to the show and everything, and they're Crow fans. And I understand there are Crow fans out there. I get it. We did not, view that through such rose-colored glasses as I believe many people do. And I don't know if we did it at the end of that show or if we did it just off mic after the show. And I think if anyone, I think it's probably you that's going to get the blame for this. But kind of said, I think as a joke at the time, maybe every Halloween we should do a review of one of these Crow movies. And it was just like, that is the worst. And I'm pretty sure I was the one that said, that is the worst idea we've ever had. And honestly, it was like a week or two later, it's just like, it's a bad enough idea to really work.
Damn you, 2015 me! Damn you!
It's the worst idea ever, but we're going to do it. So next week, in honor of the Halloween season, we're going to be reviewing The Crow, City of Angels. It couldn't be any worse than the last movie, right?
Oh, my God.
So, and the worst part is there's a couple Crow movies after this.
Oh, I know.
So
I know. There's at least two more.
There's at least two more.
Because there's Salvation, and I don't know what the other one's
There's
called.
another. I think the last one was with Eddie Furlong as the Crow.
Oh,
I
no.
kid you not.
Oh, my God. That's great.
Oh, so, you know how you can keep us going until that show gets on here? Patreon.com/HMP. So we can, at one day, get to that Edward Furlong the Crow movie.
Oh, my God.
I want it. You want it. We all want it.
I kind of want to see that one.
But no, we're going Crow City of Angels first. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, anything like that, you want to reach out to the show, we always tell people hearmoviepodcast@gmail.com. We read all of your stuff. Follow us on Snapchat, Instagram, all that good stuff. All the links, guess what? In the show notes, everybody. They're all there. So check that stuff out. I want to tell everybody they need to go on down to a little site, to a little podcast called Chubby Wizard.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Chubby Wizard every week is giving you the comic book goods. Bruce and Chris go on there and just break down everything that's there. They have spoilers, but I'll be honest with you. Again, like I've said on other shows, you listen to it, and I still don't go, man, I can't read that book now. Because it's very interesting, and I'll never not love those guys because they actually went through and reviewed the Colonel Sanders book that came out. It was the Colonel Sanders of multi-dimensional something or others. I forget, but it's a great show to listen to. So go and do that. And of course, Bruce's other show, Heroes and Villains at heroesandvillains.com. And every week, a new one. I believe the newest episode that he just dropped, that you should be getting at this time, will be from the Atom. Yeah, so a little Atom action there. So that's all good. And of course, my other podcast, the filmfind.com. Last couple of weeks here, it's been a little bit rough with the Film Find because I've lost my job. It's been a little bit more difficult financially for me to get out to go see movies and everything. So we're putting out some stuff. We had a whole episode that's almost 2 hours where we talk about Shin Godzilla and everything. The new one from Toho. So I definitely suggest you guys check that one out and all that kind of good stuff. And we'll have more stuff that's coming out soon. So there's, keep an eye out. Just keep an eye out. There's a lot of good stuff. Keenan, and until then, when can we find more of your work on the internet this week, sir?
You can always go to Hero Movie Sean on Twitter.
Very good. The greatest, just kind of like, and there you have it. All right, cool. So that is it, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Join us next week when we talk about, God help us, Crow, the City of Angels.
Man alive.
For the absent Bruce Leslie, Sean Keenan, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Avie.